all of our students from Briar Woods, Independence, Rockridge, and from Stonebridge as well. This career conversation this afternoon, we're going to be talking to Mr. Ken Fraine. He is a owner and operator of three actually businesses in the county. Soil and Structure Consulting, which is the only engineering firm in the Washington, D.C. metro area that has full service structural, geotechnical, and civil departments. Structural Repair and Renovations, which is a Class A general contracting company that specializes in structural remediation and new construction projects for both residential and commercial properties. And finally, Drainage and Erosion Solutions, a design build specialty contractor that designs and installs drainage systems to solve all types of drainage problems. Ken, did I miss anything there?
Well, just to amend that slightly, I'm no longer an owner of Drainage and Erosion Solutions. I sold that to my partner a few years ago.
Oh, okay. I've got outdated information. Okay.
That's okay. But I think the last time we did this, I might have been the owner. So that's.
Did you pick up anything else in between, or are you still just keeping busy with the two businesses and all of the rugby activities?
Quite honestly, I did start another company.
Oh, okay. That doesn't surprise me.
So I'm now a distributor for a product that we use to design with and stabilize ground surface with. So a company called Mid-Atlantic Grid and Paving Systems. So it's a product I've been using for years, and the company asked me to be their local distributor for Virginia, DC, and West Virginia.
That's awesome. So one of the things that I've always admired about you is that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think a lot of times that involves saying yes to new things that come along your way, right? So can you tell me a little bit more about your background and kind of how you got into all of these entrepreneurial businesses?
Sure, be glad to. So again, everybody, my name is Ken Fraine. I'm a local guy here. Well, I'm from Alexandria, where I went to T.C. Williams High School. I went to Virginia Tech to study engineering and ended up with a civil engineering degree. And then I liked it so much when I went to work, I went back to school, right back to Virginia Tech, and got my master's degree in something called geotechnical engineering, which is a branch of civil engineering. This is a long time ago I did that, but I really enjoy the work. So I was working for other companies for several years. And then when I was around 29 or 30, I decided I want to start my own company. A few years before that, I got my what's called a PE license, or professional engineering license, which means I'm licensed to practice engineering. And I got it in Virginia, but now I have the PE licenses in multiple states plus the District of Columbia. So in around the 90 time frame, I started a company called Soil and Structure Consulting. So it's engineering consulting business. A few years after that, I started a company called Drainage and Erosion Solutions. And I started that company because I found a need to help individual homeowners solve the problems that I was on the engineering side, designing the solutions, but I needed to find a specialty contractor to do these things I'm recommending. There weren't any specialty contractors. So I got together with a really good friend of mine, who was a landscape designer, and we created a company called Drainage and Erosion Solutions, where our goal was to fix drainage problems that were leading to structural problems with homes. Fast forward many years later, I brought in a partner for my soil and structure consulting firm, who is a structural engineer. So that we really blended well the type of work that we did, me being a soils guy, him being a structural guy. And then we started another general contracting company called Structural Repair and Renovations. Why did we start that? Because our clients had a need for a specialty contractor that fixed structural problems and wanted to renovate their homes. So we started what's called a general contracting business, and we got what's called a Class A contracting license, which means we can do projects of unlimited budget. So which means millions and millions and millions of dollars that we can do on a project, or we're going to do a project that's $5,000. We can do them all. A few years later, after using a particular type of product we use to stabilize ground, a company out of Germany asked me to basically distribute their product. By distribute, That means I buy the product from them and I sell it to people who need this product. And then so I created this company called Mid-Atlantic Grid and Paving Systems. So we just basically help people in communities stabilize ground surface. It could be a long gravel road. It could be a horse paddock. It could be the sides of highways, whatever it is. That's the type of product we sell. And the good news is I get to sell it to myself, to my contracting business, and my engineering side does all the design work. So that's how they all kind of fit in together. All my companies actually help each other thrive and grow. And I have 3 boys, one in high school right now. He's at Tuscarora, 9th grade, and I have 2 other boys at Balls Bluff Elementary School. They're in 5th grade. They're all in the room behind me. Well, the 2 of them are. Hopefully Tyler is joining in here shortly. And my other activities are I'm a rugby coach and a referee, and I get to travel around the country and the world doing that, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, I just rambled on for like 5 minutes, so I'm happy to stop talking right now.
No, but you know what I love about that though is that when you're talking about I wonder about the pros and cons of your job, and I love that you kind of transitioned into the family aspect. And so, how is being your own boss? How does that benefit like that work-life balance and whatnot?
Yeah, that's actually the really fun part of being my own boss. I mean, I do have a partner, actually multiple partners in different businesses, but the good news is that I can basically set my own schedule. And when I want to do something with my family or travel or take a day off, I don't have to ask anybody. I just tell my staff I'm taking the day off, make sure all the jobs are covered. So, but that being said, I really love my job, so I don't take a lot of days off. But when I do, I can. So it's a lot of flexibility being your own boss. There are some downsides to it. When you are the boss and you have multiple employees, you are responsible for their well-being and making sure they're getting their paychecks and the taxes are paid, insurance is paid, and very often, ask any business owner, they're going to tell you they're the last ones to get paid. So I make sure everybody gets their paychecks every single week or month or whatever the pay scale is or periods are. And if for some reason we don't have enough money, I don't get paid. That's okay. Like I said, the job has some perks, but with every perk, there's going to be a little downside.
Sure. So, yeah. And speaking of your employees, what are some of the roles that other employees in your businesses have? Sure.
So it's kind of broken down between 3 different categories of staff. Because keep in mind, we have an engineering business, a contracting business, and a distributorship. So I have other engineers that work for me and with me. Engineers and other scientists. So they're what we call on the professional track. So they have a professional degree in engineering or some sort of science degree. And so they do a lot of the design work, a lot of analysis work, number crunching, data analysis, things like that, do the actual designs that I supervise. Then we have our field technicians. Field technicians are responsible for doing inspection work in the field. So in the field means a job site. So if your parents are building an addition to your home, my technical staff or inspectors will go out there and do all the inspection work that's needed for the contractor that's building the addition for your home. Then we have, I said 3, there's actually 4 categories. Then we actually have the crews who do the actual work. So when I say I build something, I don't really build anything because I don't take a shovel and actually dig ditches anymore. I used to, but I will make sure that my crews who are actually doing the work with the machines, the backhoes, skid steers, whatever it is, they have everything they need. So they're doing the actual, what I call the hard work. So I have different types of, contractors that work with me with different types of skill sets. They can build patios, retaining walls, do framing, drywall, painting. So lots of different technical fields, specialty fields that as a general contractor we get into. So I have to have all different types of people that work for me that have lots of different skill sets. And the last, but definitely not the least, is the engine that makes everything go. Those are our administrative staff. So I have 2 office managers. They schedule all the work, make sure all the permits are getting obtained. I have a bookkeeper or actually 2 bookkeepers. I keep forgetting. I have 3 office managers, a bookkeeper, and then we hire somebody to kind of supervise the bookkeeper. So she's what's called a CPA, or certified public accountant. So she makes all our books, basically our checking accounts and everything, and are in order. We're paying the taxes we're supposed to the governments and things like that. So all those are really critical to make a business run. So it's not just have a technical know-how or know how to, work a machine. Is that there's a lot of people behind the scenes that run the office and make sure that we're doing everything properly. Because if you don't do something properly, the government will get you.
And that's for another day. No.
Yeah.
Ken, you were talking about people, that are actually going out and doing the hard work, digging the ditches and all of that kind of thing. One of the things that I've always enjoyed is the story about when you were in Virginia Tech doing, I think it was for your undergrad, and you were talking to your engineering advisor because you weren't loving some of your coursework. Can you tell us a little bit about that path that you took during that time?
Definitely. It was a pivotal point in my young career as an engineer. I in high school, I was kind of lucky. I knew I wanted to be an engineer. And what I didn't even know at the time when I told my dad, maybe I was a sophomore, so I want to be an engineer. And he was in the field, so that made him happy. But I wanted to be what's called a computer, well, now it's called computer engineer. That didn't quite exist as it does today. But so I went to Virginia Tech. You get into what's called general engineering. The good thing about going into an engineering school, generally speaking, your first year, you're just taking all these different courses and you're kind of learning about all the different fields of engineering. So again, I want to be a computer engineer, but back then, a long time ago, that was a field within what's called electrical engineering. And when I was in school in the 80s, there were 12 different disciplines of engineering. Civil engineering was just one of them. Electrical engineering, environmental engineering, hydraulic engineering, mechanical engineering, engineering science mechanics, and there's 5 or 6 more I can't remember off the top of my head. Chemical engineering. Those are the really bright kids. But I wanted to be a computer engineer, but I had to take a bunch of electrical engineering courses, and I found out after 2.5 years of taking electrical engineering courses and other things that I really didn't like electrical engineering at all. It was so boring. And if you don't like something, it's hard to do that thing well. And so as you guys have advisors, we had the same thing at the university. So we have advisors, and their job is to make sure that you are on the right path at your career, with your career as a student at the university. So I was, at a crossroads where I was saying, well, maybe just drop engineering altogether. Maybe I want to be, go into business, because I like that part of the job. I like being a business owner. I didn't know that at the time, but I like business. But he asked me what I did, what I liked when I was a kid, and what made you happy. What were the things that you were doing? Well, it's like I kind of brought the story of, well, I like working outside. I like being outside playing, and where I happened to live when I grew up in Alexandria, there were a lot of woods behind there and a lot of some construction sites going on, and I would bring my big Tonka toys and go play out in the woods and the construction sites when the jobs were in progress, and I would just play like I was a contractor and building things. And he says, well, I tell you what, try this one course, because I don't want you to quite leave the engineering yet, because you obviously have a passion for it, but I don't think you're in the right path as an engineer. I don't think you want to be an electrical engineer. So I took a course in construction management with Professor De La Garza. And the very first day, he brought out these miniature Tonka toys, put them on his desk, and say, this is a backhoe, this is a roller, this is a, he just went on and on. It's like, I know all that stuff. I loved all that stuff. I was a kid and I played with that. So, after that, I knew I was on the right path. I wanted to be a civil engineer. And civil engineers has lots of different fields within civil engineering, but I knew I wanted to be a civil engineer of some kind. So I had to cram all these, keep in mind, I've been in school for 2.5, almost 3 years. I had to cram a bunch of civil engineering courses in order to graduate in 5 years instead of 4 years. So, but I really, really appreciated what my counselor did for me, because that person, and I don't even remember his name anymore, unfortunately, but I remember the professor's name, that very first class. That really changed my life, and I don't know what I would have been doing had I not gone to that meeting with my advisor my junior year in college.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, success follows passion, right? So find the thing that you're passionate about and you're really interested in, and find a way to make that a career, and you'll most likely be successful if it's something that you really are passionate about. So I think that you're kind of the epitome of that. That's great. Given that it's 2021 and we've had an interesting year with this pandemic, how has the pandemic affected your businesses at all? Has it changed the roles?
It really has, and well, you can see I'm at home right now. This is my home office. I haven't spent so much time in this office in the past year. In this past year, I've spent more time in this office than I had in 10 years. Normally, I have an office. It's in Reston, Virginia, and I go there with my employees and my partner, and we do our work there. But now, since last March, when everything hit, most of us work from home. I work from home almost full time. My partner goes in every day to check on the staff. We have a kind of a skeleton staff in the office, but that's actually ramping back up. We used to just have 1 or 2 people in the office. Now it's ramping up to 3 or 4, and eventually we're going to get back to having most of our administrative staff and a couple different engineers in there during the day. I like working from home a lot. When I first started my company, I didn't have an office. My office was my home. So I actually really like this. Again, my kids are here with me. My wife is working downstairs in her office. So I like this aspect of if we're going to say anything, COVID did anything good, it taught us to work differently and work smarter. And I'll give another example of how things change. When we do a project, say we're fixing a foundation wall. So we have our engineer did the design. We went to the county and got a building permit. Well, we used to have to go to the county to get a building permit. We submit the plans, signed and sealed with the permit application, and give them a check. We do all that person. I'd have somebody sitting in there for hours and hours and going back and forth a couple times. So there was a lot of, in my opinion, wasted time because we had to send somebody in person. Now we do everything electronically. We're sending plans electronically. We can sign and seal plans. By sign and seal, I mean my signature and my seal. My seal's kept right here. That's my engineering seal. That means I'm licensed to do engineering in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But I can do all that electronically now. We can submit it. So all my office staff is way more efficient. And the other cool thing that's happened, because the county inspectors that are inspecting my projects, very often they will allow us to get on a Google Meets or the equivalent of that, and we'll just take our phones and show them the job around. Okay, here's that footing right there. Here's the rebar, and there's the pile of dirt that we're going to use, and then they will very often be able to do remote inspections, which is saving them a ton of time and us a ton of time. Sometimes they'll just let us submit just pictures of the job. So the efficiency with which we're able to perform our projects, perform work is greatly increased because of COVID. So I would say that it's, obviously the awful part about COVID is that we've lost so many people to COVID. But if you're going to say there's any silver lining, is that we've learned to work smarter.
Do you think that the county will continue to accept those plans electronically after?
So, with them. So what they're allowing us to do right now, the answer is yes and no. So what they're allowing us to do right now on the larger projects, I'll give you an example right now. I'm working on building 2 homes in the town of Leesburg. And all my meetings have been with all the personnel with Loudoun County on a WebEx call, equivalent to Google Meets and Zoom and all that. So I get to talk to them, see basically face to face, virtually. I've emailed them the plans. They've reviewed the plans, already. I have my engineer, my other engineer, myself. We're all having this meeting, reviewing the plans on the screen that we all can see. So we don't have to be in the same place. Now, what they do is they give us comments on the plans. And so basically that things that they want added to, subtracted to, fixed, corrected, whatever it is. So because eventually they need to approve the plans before we build. Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is do all this electronically until the very end when there's no more comments. Then we will take in what we call hard copies, or basically paper copies of our plans that are signed and sealed into the county building or to town of Leesburg, wherever it is. And then because right now the requirement is to actually have paper plans, but they don't expect you to do plan after plan after plan, submit a plan, get comments, submit another plan, get comments back and forth. So, which is the time consuming part. So they're making sure that everything is right with your plans before you submit a paper copy, which is a lot of paper right now. So yeah, so the answer is yes or no. If they have changed, I hope they go to a point where there's zero paper involved, because in my opinion, we don't need paper to build things and approve things.
That's cool. So when you were first doing engineering at Virginia Tech, did they have like the computer generated programs and things like that to do your engineering designs, or
yes.
Was it paper? Okay.
Yeah. So it was an interesting time to be a new engineer. There is something called CAD, computer aided design, CAD. The most popular one is called AutoCAD. That had been in existence for several years before I got in college. But the interesting thing was when I got there, it was the first year that they required all the engineers to actually have a computer. Like, you guys all have computers right now. You're in high school. My elementary school kids, boys have computers. That didn't exist. But so I was the first class that required to have a computer. And the year before, if you got there in 1980, I got there in 1986. Got there in 1985. When you did we programmed, literally wrote programs, basic, Fortran, things like that. If you're in 12th grade, you may have heard of some of these programs. You're just basically writing code. All the code were done with stacks of cards, where they're like punch cards. So to run a program, you would get your stacks of cards printed, and you go to the computer lab and you put your cards in, and almost every single time there was an error, and you go back and figure it out and redo all your punch cards. I was the first year we didn't have to use punch cards. I was very, very thankful on that. So everything was done on a computer. Nowadays, I have nephews and nieces in college. They're working remotely. They're in class sometimes, depending on what the COVID protocol is. But it's completely different. But back then, I was very, very thankful to be in the very first generation where we all had computers as engineering students.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've got one other question that I wanted to ask you about that I think I had sent you a thing about the career clusters. And, obviously you're a lot of that, like business management and also the STEM side of things. But one thing that's out there, marketing, right? I think you've got to have some marketing skills in your business too. How do you get the word out about your services?
Yeah, actually, I really enjoy marketing. It's a lot of fun. I think to me, it's a lot of fun. You can hire companies to do the marketing for you. And marketing, the reason you do marketing is what people know about you. Like, if you want to, build a house, and you build houses, you want those people who want to build houses to find you. So marketing, what does that actually mean? Well, we've all seen ads on TV. Well, maybe not these days. Do we see ads on TV anymore? You guys watch Netflix? Probably not. But the ads on TV, if you're on, like the older folks use Facebook or Instagram, there's going to be ads there. So we use multiple different types of marketing. So we'll put ads on Facebook. We have people whose job it is to make sure people are aware that we exist. For example, and I like using Facebook, so I'm going to use that as an example. But there's a bunch of different types of communities out there. Like if you like horses, there are several different horse communities on Facebook that people just share ideas and things like that. So I will take my ground stabilization product and go to a horse community group, join the group and say, hey guys, would you, take a look at these pictures of some problems that we solved, some mud problems we solved. And they're like, wow, well, that's really cool. I've even heard of that. That's fantastic. So then that creates an opportunity for my, for number one, I get to sell them the product, right, that I use. I get to design with the product, and then my other company will install a product. So I hit all three of my companies with one well-placed ad or just even a comment on Facebook. Instagram is very powerful. There's people still send out mailers. Mailer is, you get up many years, like Valpak and things like that. We actually made a decision last Friday, I think it was, we are no longer doing paper ads because the return on investment, the ROI, is just not there for us with paper ads. We're going to see paper ads for a long time. That's not going to go away anytime soon, but it wasn't there for us. So we've moved to basically digital marketing to get new clients. The other big, this is the biggest thing we do. It's called SEO, or search engine optimization. And what it is, if you are on Google and you type in build a fence, I want to build a fence. The companies that have made themselves very popular on the internet, in other words, I have a lot of people leaving reviews for them, people liking their page, things like that, and following the page, and they're updating their website so it's current. There's a lot of links called hyperlinks in tags and things like that on the web page. You're gonna be top of the list in Google. If you're not in the front page of Google, you might as well not be on Google. So we spend a lot of time and money on making sure that our SEO work, search engine optimization work, is top notch. So that's probably where we spend most of our dollars on advertising, marketing. The last thing that we do, this is actually what I've been doing for a long time, is something called networking. So, and Michelle, you've been to a couple of my marketing events. So this is pre-COVID. We would all, once a week, once a month, a bunch of business owners or representatives from businesses will all get together from all different fields. And we say, okay, we talk about our business. Then our job was to help all the people in our group, promote their business. So for instance, I'm an engineer. I want to help solve a structural problem or a drainage problem. But maybe I don't do bathroom tile work or electrical work, but I know somebody. So I've networked with them, and I've gotten to know them. I've learned to trust them. I brought them in my house and been work for me. So if somebody's looking for an electrician, I've been recommending the same electrician for 10, 12 years. The same with plumbers, because I've gone out and physically met these people, gotten to know them, gotten to trust them. They've done that for me too. So I have all this network of individuals helping promote my business. You do that often enough, you're gonna pretty much know everybody that does something, right? So, Michelle, as you know, if you need something, a trade, what do?
I call Ken.
Okay. Because I'll know somebody that can help you, and right. That's part of networking. That's my favorite part about advertising or marketing, is the networking aspect to it, because you actually meet people, and you actually meet a lot of really good people that turn out to be good friends of yours.
Yeah, definitely. Last question for you. When you are hiring employees, what are some of the soft skills or characteristics that you look for when you're hiring someone?
Sure. So number one, are they technically competent to do the work? In other words, if I'm hiring a structural engineer, well, where's your degree? Okay, I confirm they have their degree in engineering. We might just say, okay, well, we might quiz them a little bit, but pretty much if you have an engineering degree in structural engineering, we know you know yourself technically. But that's not the only thing. That's not the big thing. We assume that or not assume, but we verify you're technically competent to do the job, the technical part of the job. But what the most important thing to me is, can you communicate? Can you talk to people? Are you organized? Are you reliable? Self-motivated, right? So I need people, because my businesses, I have my employees talking to my clients, and my clients are the one that pays my salary. So if my employees can't effectively and efficiently talk to my clients, they're no good to me, quite honestly. So being able to talk in front of a group of people, that is a skill that is learned. And by the way, if you're thinking about going in engineering, for example, sometime take a public speaking course. You have to do this. If you want to be in business, take a public speaking course. If you want to be a chemist, take a public speaking course. At some point, you need to be able to talk in front of people. If that's not part of your skill set, and by the way, it takes a long time to do that well. But if that's part of your skill set, you are limiting yourself. Right? I could only, and I do have employees that just do not speak well. They can't get in front of a group of people and talk. In other words, they can't promote our business. So they're limited, all right? So being able to speak well and communicate well, being able to write, okay? Writing is part of communication. If you cannot write sentence, I'm talking about punctuation, spelling, learning how to write a business letter, a proposal, a report. If you can't do that, then you actually can't work for me, because I can't use you on certain things, because you have to be able to write correctly. And if there's any English teachers here, they're probably inwardly clapping their hands. But I'm telling you, being able to communicate in the written form is so important. If you can't do that, you're going to be challenged. So English courses are really important. Technical writing, in my field, technical writing is it. Because I can't just go and say, and verbally give a design, verbally give recommendations. I have to put my recommendations on a piece of paper, type it up, give it to them, and I put my signature and my seal on it, which means it's a legal document. And if I get it wrong, if I can't use a sentence properly, or use a word incorrectly, I'm in trouble. I lose my license. So being able to communicate in the written form is just so super important. I can't emphasize it enough. So if you're thinking about you want to be in a technical field or business field, fantastic. Make sure you're learning how to communicate with people, and that's the English departments in high school and in universities are going to be able to help you the most.
Yeah, and that's great, especially coming from someone who's in like the STEM field, right? To not discount the ability to speak and to write effectively. So that's great.
Exactly.
Students, does anybody have a last question for Mr. Fraine?
I think I'm all good.
You're all good. Anybody else? All right. Well, Mr. Fraine, thank you so much for your time talking to us today for these career conversations. It's really great to have people with different backgrounds and experiences, and we really appreciate you taking time today to share with our students.
Glad to help. And if anybody thinks of any questions afterwards, you have my contact information. Feel free to forward the questions on to me. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Great. Nice meeting you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.